welcome back. When you talk to people all day about all the decisions that have to be made, and we cover the gamut on this show. When it comes to finding heaters or making your house green or saving for retirement, the amount of choices people have to make just about every day, let alone every week and month, that all add up, it's a lot of choices. And a lot of people right now have been thinking about buying a house. Market's been down. Activity is kind of picking up. And Dave Duncan's back with us, who over the last 12 years has some pretty incredible sales records with over 100 transactions per year. And he's also the broker at Keller Williams up in Bothell and potentially a new one.
Well, it's not quite out yet, but yeah, we're looking at a new market center.
Maybe, yeah, well, it is now.
It is now.
So, Dave, talk a little bit about why you think right now might be the perfect time to buy.
Yeah, I do Ben for a lot of reasons. In early 2009, I did a YouTube clip, and it talked about prices, rates, selection, and flexible sellers, and why it's a great time. But that was 3 years ago. Now it's even better. And we'll go over some statistics that will justify all that. Before we get into that, though, let's back up. Remember when you and Ryan were talking about making decisions, and you really got me thinking. It's really sad about, decisions and financial planning, as Jeff was talking about earlier. It's not taught in schools, how to budget, how to plan for that stuff. Most parents don't tell their kids. It's something, it's an absolute decision people have to make on their own. And then they got to go out and solicit it and find somebody like Jeff and that knows this stuff. And I think the key is finding not just somebody you trust, or find somebody who you trust who has somebody they trust, if that makes sense.
Well, and it kind of comes back, you say they don't teach it at school. They don't even teach critical thinking anymore, where you could internalize and go, I actually should go make a decision. And then I should at least be able to put A and B together to try to get to C. I could go off on schools for a long time I don't even think people understand, as Jeff talked about earlier, these people are blissfully unaware. When you really think about that, that is a really dumb place to be. Unaware of your current situation when it's some of the most important things in people's lives. And I'm not saying money is the most important thing, but if you really do want to retire or you want to put your kids through college, money buys important things.
Yeah, the older I get, I realize that money does drive pretty much everything. And I remember a phrase I heard years ago, and back to planning, you either work hard now so you can play later, or like so many of the 20-somethings today, they're playing hard now and they got to keep working.
Yep. So let's talk a little bit about the people who maybe are thinking, hey, now is a time to buy a house.
I think, again, let's go back over those four things I mentioned. Prices, of course, is the first thing. They're still down, and they're down more than they were from 2009 to 10 and 10 to 11 and now. So prices are down as low as they've been since we're down to about the 2002, 2003 levels. So that's number one. Number two are rates. And you being the lender, of course, you know all about rates. It's been hovering around the lowest rates ever. Mm-hmm. And again, Ryan threw out some numbers last time. And I'll touch on that in a little bit. Selection back then, we had all kinds of inventory. So the big promo then was a lot of selection, which leads to a lot of motivated sellers. Well, today it's different. So let me give you some numbers real quick. Not to bore you guys that don't like numbers, but so let's go back to January 2002. We had roughly averages 9,000 to 10,000 homes available at any given time. Basically, there was anywhere from, in this particular snapshot, 2,200 sales. So basically, you had 4.2 months of inventory. That means you got some selection, but not a whole lot. Then you go to the most amount of inventory. Remember, I said it was 92, the first time. Now in May of 2008, it ballooned up to 16,435 homes. And again, it went to 2,417 sales, and that gives you about almost 7 months worth of inventory. So, this is good for the buyer. You get more choices. The rule of thumb is if you have 6 months worth of inventory, it's a neutral market. Less than that leans towards a seller's market. More than that, absolutely a buyer's market. It reached its peak in December of 2008, 10 months worth of inventory. There's 11, 12, 13, 14 in some markets. But here's the biggest, most compelling reason you should be buying right now. Because if you've got the great prices, you've got the great rates. February 2012, there was 7,360 homes available, 2,418 sold for a market share a months of inventory of a little over 3 months. So what's going to happen at this current pace, if we don't get more houses on the market, you're not going to have a lot of choices. You're going to have multiple offers, which we're seeing right now. I mean, we had 11 properties get offers last week, and it's just really heating up. And so if you don't do it now, guess what? Prices are going up. And we didn't talk about the X factor, which I'm sure you'll elaborate on, is what if rates go up a half?
Well, it's incredible because you can start, your buying power goes down drastically. I mean, if rates go up 0.5%, you can lose 10% of your buying power. If they go up another 5 or 0.5%, you can lose 20% of your buying power. And that doesn't, that does not bode well for people who are looking for the nice house to move their family into because they think it's the perfect time to buy.
And then let's put numbers to that. You say 10%. So if you had a $280,000 house, rates go up a little bit, or half a point, like you said.
Down to 250.
250. Do it again, 220. I don't think you're going to like the house you're going to get then if you've been looking at 280.
Yeah, it's an incredible difference. When people are out there looking at houses, are they more realistic or less realistic now than they were maybe 2 or 3 years ago?
They're more realistic, but so often it takes, they've always got backseat quarterbacks, to stick with our football comparisons. They've always got parents, friends, relatives, somebody in a different state.
Their uncle the plumber.
There we go. And giving them all this advice. But you know what? What makes them a great realistic buyer is after they lose a couple houses they really wanted because they started too low or didn't make decisions quick enough.
And it does take having a relationship with somebody like yourself in order to, I guess, transcend that disillusion of I can do whatever I want in the housing market. And, Wes and Lisa talked about it earlier. You're talking about it now. You guys are in the trenches on this stuff. People who think that it's just, hey, I'll shave 20% or 10% off a purchase price, they're not realistic anymore. And I think that's coming. It seems to be, I don't know, this pendulum seems to be swinging in more realism.
It absolutely is. I had a conversation just this morning. The realtor wrote an offer on one of our listings. The builder countered at full price, gave him closing costs. He's going to pay all the closing costs and just $1,000 worth of upgrades. And the realtor just couldn't believe that that's it. That's all. I said, we had 5 offers at that plat this weekend. What would you do?
Right.
Are you going to give it away? And then, no, he's not.
I can't imagine why after the last few years, why he wouldn't be excited to do that. So what else do you see as some of the big reasons to buy right now?
All those things I mentioned, but let's put all this in perspective. I've got some stats you might find interesting and kind of staggering, actually.
I'm looking at the numbers right now, and I would say staggering is an understatement.
1989 bread, 67 cents, a loaf of bread. Now it's $2.78. So that's what, four times more? Gas, 97 cents a gallon. Now, as of last year, $2.84. So let's make it $4, and there you go, 4 times now. New car back then, a little over $15,000. Now it's about $30, double. And again, this is 1989 to 2011. Existing home, $94,000. Now $166, and that's 65-70% more. Here's the 2 great stats and the reasons you should make the decision now. Mortgages were 10% then. Now they're 4.5, which correlates to, this is the best stat of all, your monthly payment, principal and interest only now. So you'd add taxes and insurance later or on top of that. 8.25 a month. Today, based on those same numbers, the higher sales price and the lower rate, $8.37 a month, $12 in 12 years.
I mean, that's incredible because people go about buying their bread and their gas and their cars every day. But when it comes to something like this, I mean, houses are actually a lot cheaper on a monthly basis than they were.
Oh, yeah. This doesn't factor in the affordability factor of we're making more money
wages,
and the payment's the same.
Yeah. I mean, that is the one that gets me there is the $30,000 car. Cars are expensive. I mean, granted, they got a lot more gadgets and gadgets, but so do houses. And it's amazing that people go out and, again, I think these are decisions in a bubble, but people go out and they spend that much money on a car when really they don't need to. And I don't know, Jeff, maybe we can chat a little bit about this in after we go to break, but this is one of those places where if you have a good professional to talk to, maybe they can go, actually, you know what? Your car costs $500 to get fixed, and that $30,000 is going to cost you 6 months of work down the road or whatever it is. I mean, you start bringing those numbers back, and then you realize that you can buy a house for the same monthly payment as you could 20 years ago. It's pretty interesting numbers.
You know, it really isn't. And again, it all starts with your first conversation, making the decision, to getting educated on numbers, finding somebody for financial planning, and just understanding the numbers. You got to be getting educated on purpose. And then, of course, get in front of a pro real estate agent, and then they'll walk you through the process.
And you actually have a book on for first-time home buyers. I guess any home buyer. It's pretty different for everybody now.
Yeah, Gary Keller's a renowned author. He's got a book called My First Home. And for the first, you can tell how it'll happen logistically, Ben, but for the first 15 people that reply, we'll mail one of those out to you.
What we'll do is, if you guys want a book, just go ahead, go on our Facebook page, and we'll get you a copy of Gary Keller's book. We'll facilitate the whole thing. Well, Dave, thanks so much for joining us. We have to go to break, and when we come back, Heather Moore is going to join us, and she's going to drop questions like the rays of sunshine that are out there today. We'll be right back.